Hello from Barista Kossenberg. Once again, it's all about tips and tools, and today we want to show you how, under certain circumstances, you can get much higher steam output from your machines. You'll see in a moment how it all works and why we have this here. With all the espresso machine tests you see here on the YouTube channel, the topic of frothing milk always comes up as well. Some machines perform a little better, while others just perform a bit worse. Whether you can change that, and if so, how, is what we're going to show you today. And if you'd like to keep getting tips like these from us in the future or want to see machine reviews, then feel free to subscribe to our channel because we're happy about every new subscriber who helps us to keep this channel going. But now, let's get to the topic. How can we improve the steam performance of our machine? If your machine doesn't have a PID controller that allows you to increase the boiler temperature and therefore also the pressure, then you might have the option to significantly improve your steam performance by using a different steam tip with a different number of holes. For example, the Lelit Mara X comes to mind, which doesn't have a lot of steam power out of the box, but you can still steam milk well with it. We simply swapped out the steam tip on our machine. Specifically, we replaced the included 2-hole tip with a 4-hole tip. And lo and behold, the machine's performance is excellent. It has enough power to generate so much pressure, even with 4 holes, that it's noticeably faster and creates much more rotation. As an example, here we have 6 different steam tips from ECM. Each one has a different number of holes or a different geometry. It starts quite simply with a single hole tip, then a 2-hole, 3-hole, 4-hole, a 5-hole tip, and here we also have a 5-hole tip with a different geometry. And you'll see the differences in just a moment. We're testing all of this today on a Profitec move. And if you're thinking about replacing your steam tip, make sure to check exactly which tip you originally received with your machine. In other words, pay attention to whether you have an internal or external thread and what the thread diameter is. There are many different types of steam tips available. To be able to attach the ECM steam tips to our Profitec, there is a suitable adapter for that. But first, the fundamental question: what difference does it actually make whether our steam tip has 1 hole, 2 holes, 3, 4, or even 5 holes? Basically, you can say the more holes you have, the faster your milk will heat up. That means, of course, you have less time to correct your mistakes. The simplest type of steam tip is, of course, a single hole tip. This means, on the one hand, you have a very focused jet that gets the milk spinning, and on the other hand, you have a lot of time before the milk even reaches the temperature you want. As I said, the more holes your steam tip has, the faster the whole process will be. And that simply means you can't make any mistakes when frothing, otherwise you'll end up with a foam that just isn't enjoyable. On the other hand, there are also disadvantages to using a single hole tip, for example, because you simply can't froth too much milk at once. That means, for example, if you have a large pitcher, 3/4 of a liter or something like that, you simply won't stand a chance with a single hole tip because it just doesn't have enough steam pressure to really get the milk rotating. The more holes you have, the larger your pitcher can be, and the more milk you can froth at once. But before we just keep talking endlessly, let's simply try it out and see how the whole thing works. We're heading to our workshop now. There, we'll set up our Profitec move, and then we'll just get started and see what happens. We've now installed the single hole tip and just want to see what happens, and above all, how long it takes. We have 19 degrees. Instead of milk, we're using water so you can follow the stream a bit better. And if you want to learn more about milk frothing, we've made a video with 11 tips for you. We'll be happy to link it for you. As you can see, it takes us a bit longer to froth the milk, or rather until we reach the right temperature. But with the single hole tip, we achieve a very, very targeted and nice rotation. So now we've reached 65 degrees, and I think that went really, really well. Now it's time for the 2-hole tip. We even have 1 degree less, 18.1 degrees instead of 19. Let's see. The tip reacts very differently, but we're getting into a very nice rotation. I hope you can see that. Now we're already at 65 degrees. That was quick. We're a bit cooler again. Apparently our tap water is quite cool. So now we'll try it with the 3-hole tip. Unbelievable. We immediately get into the rotation phase. See? 65 degrees. Now it's time for the 4-hole tip, which is also very often used in commercial machines. The rotation phase happens instantly. And we've already gone past 65 degrees. Craziness. So now comes the 5-hole nozzle. We're back at 17 degrees, so even 0.2 degrees less. .66 degrees already, 67. Now it's time for the so-called turbo nozzle. We are even 1 degree colder than before, 16.2. Let's see what happens. Now we are already at 67 degrees. It was a bit harder to get into the rotation phase. We'll test this again with milk in a moment, but I want to test the large nozzle again with a bigger container. Now we have 3/4 of a liter of water and have set our machine a bit hotter. That means from 128 degrees to 134 degrees, and let's see how that works. But that's where our move starts to struggle. With 3/4 of a liter, its 1 liter steam boiler just can't keep up. So it couldn't handle that now. But now we'll try the whole thing with milk. This is actually the first time I'm trying to make cappuccino foam with a 5-hole steam nozzle. Amazing. I hope you can see that nicely. It's not perfect, but not bad either. You could already do some nice latte art with it. So now let's try it with the single-hole nozzle and see how it works there. wonderful, that works really easily, but it takes noticeably longer. With the 5-hole nozzle, that was really a challenge. I'll just have to practice that a bit more. But of course, it's amazing if you have enough power, enough steam power, and want to quickly froth a lot of hot milk. I hope that with our little experiment you were able to clearly see how differently the nozzles react. You can definitely observe the fewer holes a nozzle has, the longer it takes to heat up the milk. But it can also be more difficult, in some cases, to get the milk into rotation. Especially with the 4- and 5-hole nozzles, I had the impression that the rotation started immediately from the beginning. Only the so-called turbo nozzle with the 5 holes in a row is really a bit tricky. I still need to practice a bit with that one. The temperature and boiler pressure were, in any case, always the same, except for the experiment where we tried to heat 3/4 of a liter of water with the turbo nozzle here. Unfortunately, even the Move had to give up there. After all, it only has a 1-liter boiler, but I definitely need to practice with this nozzle again anyway. So now we're going to attach it to our commercial machine and just see what happens. With that in mind, I wish you lots of power with your machine in the future and maybe with a different nozzle. However, you do need to practice a bit because it's not quite that easy. We wish you lots of fun, enjoy good coffee, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time.